Wildcard weekend is here, and we have a look ahead at the biggest storylines leading into the clash with the Rams on Monday night in the desert, as well as the team's final injury report heading into the wildcard showdown. We're going to be breaking down all of that in this episode of Vikings Digest, but first make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you don't miss any updates surrounding the Vikings as we head into our first playoff game of the postseason. Hopefully we can continue playing, but with that, let's hop into the first topic, and that is wildcard preview. So the Vikings are the first team with 14 plus wins to not win a division title and become the first squad to play a road playoff game before conference championships. The only other three teams to win 14 or more games and play a road playoff game were the 72 Dolphins. They won the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl that season with that perfect season that has still remained intact. The 98 Falcons, we all know how that went. We don't need to talk about that. 2004 Patriots, they won the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, but the Vikings will try to replicate the success of the 21 Rams, who lost their final game of the regular season, finishing as the number 4 seed. That squad, which included Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell as the offensive coordinator, multiple assistant players, is only the participant in a 4-5 game win in a Monday wild card game to advance past the divisional round on the way to getting Super Bowl 56. So this kind of ironic that our first trip on this postseason run is against the Rams in Arizona, unfortunately, due to the fires going on in California. Hopefully everybody's staying safe out there. But the game will be being moved to Arizona, where it's going to be on neutral ground. There's going to be a decent amount of purple. There would have been if it was in LA anyways. The Rams don't seem to get too many fans going there anyways. There are a lot of faithful fans, as it would seem. The Super Bowl parade wasn't the most flashy, but we're not here to talk trash about the Rams. We're here to look ahead at the playoff game and the biggest storylines heading into that. The biggest one, however, is Sam Darnold's rebound. Last game wasn't a great game. You can pause and take a look at what the stats are going to say about this. But last game, he had a bad game. He is due for a bounce back game. And what quarterback this season has more games of a passer rating above 100 and 2+ pass TDs? Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff are tied at 11. Then Josh Allen, Bo Nix, and Baker Mayfield at 7. But the answer is Sam Darnold with 12. He is the most by a quarterback in a single season all time, and most since Aaron Rodgers set the record with 14 in 2020. Now, the bottom line is there's zero flinching within the organization about Darnold's ability to bounce back. He did it after tossing 3 interceptions in a 12-7 win at Jacksonville, proceeding to throw 11 touchdowns and no interceptions over his next 4 games. He did it too with unbelievably clutch passes, the narrowest types of victories in week 16 and 17 against the Seahawks and the Packers. Not to forget also that blowout win against the Falcons, where we got a bit of revenge for the 98 season just a few years later, or a few decades later in the making, I should say, where we got the win on home turf. So Sam Darnold has been that quarterback this season where, yeah, he's had a few games where he's struggled, but he hasn't really struggled 2 games in a row. And that's why I have a lot of confidence in Darnold going into this game, is because yeah, he's coming off of a bad game. He knows he played terrible. A lot of people were calling for KOC for all the 4th down attempts that he was trying to go for. I don't hate those attempts because he had guys open on those, but Darnold wasn't making the right read. Hopefully with this one, he's going to make the right reads and not have to force it to JJ all the time. But the other thing that goes hand in hand with that is red zone redemption. On Sunday Night Football, they were 0 for 4 on trips inside the red zone and plummeted the offensive touchdown rate, success rate in the red zone from 59.6, which would rank 6th, down to 12th at 55.7 and 10th among the 14 playoff squads. O'Connell on Thursday addressed a reporter who asked if scheming players open in the red zone was an area of emphasis in the 2 seasons working as offensive coordinator with Sean McVay. He says, across the whole game plan, I think I learned so many things from Sean, but just the idea of doing whatever you can to help your players get open and make it as easy as possible for the quarterback. It's always important for us to send it for us, and it's something that we've been pretty consistent at for most of the season. That is definitely true. And that was one of the things that I really looked at, because looking back on that Lions game, is the red zone struggles. That 2nd and goal with Addison, he was wide open on an outbreaking route. Darnold was looking right at him, but then he pivoted, looked right over to Jettas, and just tried to force it. Even people I know who don't watch football, they were looking at that play, and I paused it for him saying, hey, who should he throw it to on this? And even not knowing anything about football, they looked at it and said, number 3, wide open. Absolutely, that's the read that you should make, but that's not what Sam did. So things like that, and especially inside the red zone, are things that the Vikings are going to have to correct, and things that they need to make sure that they can capitalize on against this Rams team where they have a very high-powered offense. And that's going to lead us into the other storyline of this game, which is tough to blitz Stafford. When speaking on the Rams, Brian Flores was saying they do a good job of trying to move some pieces to kind of undress the defense a little bit. He's got good receivers. They get open. So he does a good job of recognizing the defense, and then he can spit the ball out pretty quickly. Talking about Matthew Stafford and this high-powered Rams offense. And looking at Stafford, he owns a 105.2 pass rating against the blitz per Next Gen Stats. Fifth time he's compiled a rating greater than 100 versus the blitz in the Next Gen Stats era since 2016. Stafford, however, hasn't fared strongly under duress. His 55 passer rating under pressure is fourth worst this season among qualified quarterbacks, ahead of Anthony Richardson, Bo Nix, Gardner Minshew, which does bode well. That's because the Vikings defense amassed third most quarterback pressures with 254 and tied fourth in the NFL with 49 sacks. Pro Bowl selections Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel teamed up as one of the two duos in the NFL with at least 11 sacks, and with Grenard getting 12 and Van Ginkel getting 11.5. Now, according to Football Focus, the passer was blitzed, meaning Stafford was blitzed on 38.2% of his dropbacks in the 30-20 win over Minnesota earlier this season, and managed to clip 10 of 13 passes for 128 yards with 9.8 per attempt. So this is a thing that is a common talking point with the Vikings, and that is blitzing. I talked about it in the post game about the Lions game, and it was just reiterating what I said earlier in the year when they lost to them earlier. Stop blitzing so much against veteran quarterbacks and great offensive lines, especially against an offense when they have as many weapons as they do. Jahmyr Gibbs, he torched us. You know who else torched us early in the season? Kyren Williams. You know who's really fast? Kyren Williams. So if we're going to blitz the Rams like this, Stafford is great against the blitz. He's not so great against pressure. You don't need to blitz to bring pressure. This is a defense that leads the NFL in takeaways. The only team in the NFL with a takeaway in every single game. So trust in your secondary. Trust in your guys at the second level in the linebacker area, because this secondary, all of them have a pick this season. One of the few defensive cores that can say that. So trust in them to get it done. You don't have to keep sending an extra guy, especially against a team where A, they have a great offensive line, B, they have a really fast running back weapon they can dump it off to in Kyren Williams, C, very dangerous receivers with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp as well, and D, a veteran quarterback in Matthew Stafford who can pick them apart and has seen almost every scheme in the book that you can throw at him. Brian Flores isn't going to be finding anything new in this scenario, especially when they played them earlier in the season. What I am a big fan of is the fake blitz look. You keep bringing these fake blitzing looks, eventually they're going to bite and they're going to make a mistake, especially if he's going to have to force it into a tight window. You have pass rushers in Jonathan Grenard, Dallas Turner. Pat Jones is going to be out in this game. We're going to touch on that in our next topic. But you have guys who can get home. Harrison Phillips as well. You have guys who can get sacks and get pressure. You don't always have to blitz to get them. So hopefully Minnesota will ease off the blitz a little bit in this game, and they can just trust in their defenders to either get home on the pass rush, just in normal pass rushing, or at least create a turnover in traffic with the secondary or the linebackers. But what do you guys think about the blitzing? Do you want to see more? Do you want to see less? And the thing is two Vikings to track heading into this game. Jefferson and Addison, one of the best duos, hoping to just have a reset heading into this postseason, wiping away that game the last game where Jefferson, he had 70 or so yards. Addison had 0. Hopefully they can just erase that. And the duo joined Marvin Harrison Sr. and Reggie Wayne and Gary Collins and Paul Warfield. And they combined for 121 receptions since week 8 to only have at least 10 touchdowns in a season, matching those pairs. And then doing what Jamar Chase and T. Higgins did, and Nacua and Kupp as well, followed by Chicago's DJ Moore and Keenan Allen this season as well. So this is a duo that needs to get going, and they need to get going early, because if they get shut down early, it's going to be tough sledding. The other two that got to get going is on the other side of the ball. Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard. They are a dynamic duo. The Pro Bowl linebackers as well will have to contend with a very balanced attack from the Rams if they can sort through the run versus pass and create pressure. particularly without Minnesota implementing blitzes since Stafford has been so good, like we just talked about, should provide a nice bump for Minnesota's defense. Each player recorded 18 tackles for loss, and together they total 41 quarterback hits, 19 for Van Ginkel, 22 for Grenard in their first season together. Awesome tandem to have with these pass rushers. Hopefully they can get to Stafford without having to blitz, like it says, like I just said as well, because Stafford will pick them apart. But you don't have to worry about that with Van Ginkel too much if he's dropping into coverage, because as we saw with his pick sixes, he's got hands. As we've seen with Grenard, he can get to the quarterback. So if they can just relax in coverage, just worry about taking away Kyren Williams so that they have to force the pass, and then you can get there to cause disruption. That's going to be one of the keys. But one of the keys is going to be having guys healthy, and that's going to take us into our second topic of the day, which is the final wild card injury report. And when looking at it here, Pat Jones unfortunately ruled out with a knee injury after not practicing all week. Cam Akers is considered questionable with an illness. Those are the two biggest ones you have to look at with this. Cam Akers, he's going to be very reliable if they have him, because Aaron Jones has had a little bit of a tough go recently and some injury struggles. So if they're able to implement Akers in a way where, hey, this is our power back when on the second and third down when we need to get a few yards, we can pound it in with him. If we need a goal line score, we can use him. Aaron Jones has had a little bit of a hard time kind of powering through lines in those scenarios. So if Akers is that one that's able to bring us home in that sense, would love to see him back out on the field and able to do that for us after a down game against Detroit, where he did have a few explosive runs. But Pat Jones not being in this game is going to be the biggest blow of all, because he is one of our best defensive pass rushers, and he is a big part of that. However, that's going to open the door for Dallas Turner to step up and have a really big postseason coming out party in his rookie season. Would love to see him get a sack or two to make his name known in the playoffs and make sure that Minnesota can just cruise through this wild card round into the divisional round. But what do you guys think on this game ahead? How excited are you? How nervous are you? We know this has been a thing with Vikings fans. This season has been so fun, and we know that we're prepared for heartbreak. We're prepared for that first round exit. However, this season feels a little bit different, hopefully. I know that game last in week 18, it looked like same old Vikings that we've seen in big games. Hopefully they can just erase that. This team is really good at bouncing back. However, those playoff fears will always be there, because at the end of the day, we are Vikings fans. But what do you guys think down below? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Let us know down in the comments. Leave a like, comment, share with your friends. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss our post-game reaction when it drops. But with that, I've been your host, Griffin. Take care.